What's going on, guys? It's Cimo coming back at you guys with yet another live duel commentary. I set up a poll on the community page and you guys voted for Danger Thunder Dragon versus Salamangreat. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys today. Definitely an interesting matchup, but before I get into it, if you guys are going to be in the Richmond area on July 13th and 14th, I definitely want you guys to come to the Pro Play Games Tour event. It has a $2,000 prize pool. You don't need any other prior qualifications except just paying the entry fee of $20. I will be there doing live stream commentary coverage, and it's going to be one hell of a time. So check out the link in the description below, and I hope to see you guys there. So the Danger Thunder Dragon player is going to be kicking things off for us. Now, why this is such an interesting matchup is because Danger Thunder Dragon is the strongest combo deck of the format, being able to just pile on so much advantage and being able to just play through so many different forms of disruption solely due to the fact that it just has a million extenders at its disposal. So we're seeing the Danger Thunder Dragon player starting off with a Nessie, but normal summoning a copy of Omni Dragon Brotor. You never want to really see Brotor in your hand, although if you are forced to normal summon it, it's not like the end of the world. It pretty much just has to be your normal summon, or you have to find some way to get it into the graveyard, maybe by having it get pitched off of a Danger, something like that, but it definitely does change your line of play. But it looks like the Danger Thunder Dragon player has managed to adapt. He's going to go ahead and banish that Nessie for the White Dragon Wyvern Burster, go ahead and summoning Elpie. He also has the Beat Cop, which allows him to set up for the Guard Dragon plays here. He went ahead for Black Dragon Collapse Serpent, which is going to get linked off into Pisty, and now he's pretty much exactly where he wants to be. He can use Elpie now, and that's going to allow him to go into his deck to get a dragon, but that is going to be met with an Effect Veiler, and now Pisty is going to use its effect instead. So Pisty is going to resurrect the Brotor. So again, like I said, it's not the end of the world in your combo line if you're trying to go about your plays. If you draw the Brotor, you kind of just have to change things a little bit. And as we see here, we're using the effect of the Brotor, and we're going to most likely be searching something like Chaos Dragon Levianeer. I'm not exactly sure what he searched. Oh, he's actually going for Darkest Diabolos. Okay, so Darkest Diabolos, also another very favored target from the Brotor. And again, this really shouldn't hinder too much. He can just go ahead and link off here and make the Agripane very easily, which can then get Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. It doesn't look like he has any of his Thunder cards in his hand, so he's not going to be any on Colossus. But he did have the Chaos Dragon Levianeer already in his hand, which is why he searched the Diabolo. So here comes the Triple Burst Dragon being made with the Beat Cop and the Brotor. And I was going to link off the Triple Burst as well as the Pisty to go ahead and go into Agripane. So this is going to set up the Danger Thunder Dragon player's first layer of negation. The Agripane just hit the field. Now, when it comes to Salamangreat approaching this matchup, we see Infinite Impermanence coming down, so a second hand trap stopping the Agripane, and why that's very significant is now Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss will not hit the field, so that's one less disruption that the Salamangreat player has to play through. So Salamangreat has a very interesting matchup here because since it's main decking about 12 different hand traps, what's advantageous here is that if it can just get 2 of those hand traps, typically that should be enough to disrupt the Danger Thunder Dragon player, to slow them down just a bit. But we do see Chaos Dragon Levianeer coming down now, being banished, or being summoned rather, by banishing 3 Darks, and that will randomly shuffle one of these Salamangreat players' cards back into their deck. So the thing is, although those hand traps did slow him down, Levianeer ripping another card out of the Salamangreat player's hand is actually pretty detrimental, because now the Salamangreat player is only going to be playing on 3 cards. Now, he did get a copy of Dragonhawk because he banished Dark, and that is going to give him the Thunder access that he needs. And because he has the Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, in tandem with this Thunder Dragon Colossus he's summoning by tributing off the Thunder Dragon Dark, excuse me, this is actually a pretty strong board. So this is exactly what I was saying, though. The Thunder Dragon player, even though he was hit by 2 hand traps, was still able to summon a board of Hieratic Seal, Thunder Dragon Colossus, and a Hope Harbinger, and he's just going to scoop, Salamangreat player is going to scoop it up, and we're going to go straight into game 2. Now, the thing is, going up against, you know, the mirror match for Danger Thunder Dragon, or maybe up against Orcust, the thing is they aren't playing hand traps, so typically they're going to end on their extremely powerful end board, which has multiple negations, but even sometimes those hand traps are not enough. There are some key points in the Danger Thunder Dragon matchup, like hitting that Elpie in particular, or hitting that Agripane. It just so happened that the Danger Thunder Dragon player had the necessary components to get around it, and also still managed to set up an extremely powerful turn one board regardless. And with only having a couple of cards in hand, the Salamangreat player was not going to get anywhere. So we see that the Salamangreat player started with a Jack Jaguar linking off into a Balinx. Phantasme was going to hit the field, but Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring did negate that. So that is a good information that the Salamangreat player now has, but he's also going to now be able to go and finish the rest of his plays. So Pot of Desires coming down for the Salamangreat player. This is not a card you see too often included in the Salamangreat strategy. It's not the worst card to include, but the reason why some players choose not to include it is because there are a lot of specific one-ofs in the Salamangreat deck that you do not want to banish, most notably stuff like your Jack Jaguar, which in this case, the Salamangreat player opened with, so that's not going to get banished. But you've also got stuff like Falco, you've got stuff like the Counter Trap being Roar, or maybe Salamangreat Rage if you only play one of that. Salamangreat Sanctuary is another big one, although he did already search it with the Balinx, so that was not a concern here. It's one of those things you have to wager in your deck building process as to whether or not Pot of Desires is going to be more of a hindrance than being helpful. So we see the Salamangreat player is continuing to combo off. He Reincarnation Link summoned Balinx into a new copy, allowing him to summon Gazelle from his hand, which we can assume was drawn off the Pot of Desires. And now Gazelle is going to allow him to dump one of his Salamangreat cards into the graveyard. He could opt for Spinny here, which will then allow him to go into Mirage Stallion and pretty much finish off his full combo, but he won't be able to Reincarnation Link summon Sunlight Wolf unless he does it the hard way, not using the field spell. So that is something we'll have to see if he has an extra monster that he can dispose of in order to make that play. We'll just have to see where it goes. I believe the Salamangreat player did dump a copy of Spinny. It looks like he did. He's going to resurrect that, and now he's going to go ahead and make that Mirage Stallion, as I alluded to earlier. And Danger Thunder Dragon really doesn't matter here. It's just going to go ahead and take its time. Just watch what the Salamangreat player has to do. Obviously, that Phantasme would have been good, but it's not the end of the world if Phantasme doesn't get to stick. Since the Salamangreat deck does rely so heavily on Link summoning, he'll be able to drop that Phantasme on the following turn at the very least. Danger Thunder Dragon, though, is able to combo pretty heavily through these Salamangreat boards because they only put up, one or maybe two forms of disruption that are known, and then possibly some that are unknown in the form of the hand traps here. So we see a Sunlight Wolf being made. He's going to go ahead and resurrect that Jack Jaguar, use the effect of Sunlight Wolf to recur the Gazelle, and now from here he could potentially just make a new copy of Sunlight Wolf, but it looks like he's actually going to opt to overlay the Falco and the Jack Jaguar for an Abyss Dweller. Now this is another reason why you might want to play the Salamangreat deck still in this current format, is because having access to Abyss Dweller is absolutely incredible. Abyss Dweller pretty much shuts down 3 of the top 4 decks. The only one not really having too much an effect against is Sky Striker, and if you can open that turn 1 Dweller, it can really shut down the potential plays that the Danger Thunder Dragon player has. It makes the Dangers not get their effects if they hit the graveyard. It doesn't stop Batteryman Solar, which is a very good start from the Danger Thunder Dragon player, but we'll have to see what he has here. He could have that Roar in the back row. Could also be a Rage as well, but that wouldn't stop the effect. I'm curious to see where he's going to go from here. Taking a peek in this hand, it looks like we see a Dragon Dark. I believe there's a Danger Nessie, a Jackalope, and also a Dark Grepher, which is interesting. But the thing is that Abyss Dweller is very strong because if those Dangers hit the graveyard, they're not going to get any of their effects. Same thing for any of the Thunder monsters. If they get linked off and sent to the graveyard, Dweller is just an incredibly powerful card. It's not the most detrimental in the Danger Thunder matchup. It's a lot more of a Silver Bullet type card against Orcus, but it definitely stifles the Danger Thunder Dragon player from going off completely because they lose so much of their value if the Danger cards do get hit. So we see a reveal of Nessie here, and we're going to go ahead and see what he hits off of that effect. It's going to go ahead and roll the die randomly. He's going to hit that middle card there. And it's going to go ahead and hit Dark Grepher. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. He could have gotten that special summon by pitching the Nessie, but Nessie would not have gained its effect. So again, that is something that he had to decide. So Nessie's going to special summon itself. He's going to draw into Effect Veiler, interestingly enough. I'm guessing that came from the side deck because you do not see these Danger Thunder Dragon decks maining any sort of hand trap, apart from maybe Phantasme, just because it kind of synergizes with the rest of the deck. But Effect Veiler definitely came out of the side deck. So we do see Jackalope being revealed, pitching a Thunder Dragon Dark, and it's going to special summon itself and draw a new card. Sekka's Light is a pretty good draw, and we're going to go ahead and see if that's going to be met by anything. There might be a potential Ash Blossom here, and there it is. Ash Blossoming Sekka's Light. Now, hitting Sekka's Light with Ash Blossom is a little bit interesting because you typically want to save the Ash Blossom for one of the Danger Thunder Dragon players' bigger plays, potentially Saryuja if they can't chain block it. You could also stop something like LP for their Guard Dragon plays, so that way you kind of put a big halt on their strategy. But hitting Sekka's Light when the Danger Thunder Dragon player is low on resources, especially if they're under something like Abyss Dweller, could be the correct call and could just pretty much stop them. It's a read you have to make in that moment depending on the circumstances to see if that's what you want to do in that given situation. So the Danger Thunder Dragon player has made a copy of Nightmare Phoenix with his 2 dangers. It looks like he's going to pitch the copy of Effect Veiler in his hand and go after that back row. I think that is a Salamangreat Rage. And it's an Infinite Impermanence. Okay, so Impermanence is just going to go ahead and negate the Phoenix. Regardless, nothing would have happened. It's not like it was co-linked or anything, so it was just going to be sent to the graveyard either way. And it looks like the Phoenix is going to go ahead and make an attack against the Sunlight Wolf, having 100 extra attack. The Salamangreat player is going to banish the Balinks, and now we see Batteryman Solar attacking over the Abyss Dweller. I'm not exactly sure if it was wise to keep the Abyss Dweller in attack mode. I guess he could have just attacked over it with the Phoenix, and it really wouldn't have made too big of a difference. However, I guess just protecting your life points is probably the better thing to do. It's just sometimes those little monsters can get over the Dweller, and if your opponent didn't have a way to access something like that, that Dweller could have survived another turn and probably just sealed the game for you. So again, it's just something you have to decide. We see a normal summon of Lady Debug here under the Sunlight Wolf, and that's going to be a very strong play. He's going to get to recur the Ash Blossom to his hand with Sunlight Wolf's effect, and now Lady Debug is just going to allow him to go off here, because even though it's at 1, it is still a very powerful card for this deck strategy. He's going to go ahead and grab a copy of Foxy here, and this will pretty much give him access to every single Salamangreat card he needs. He has Jack Jaguar and Falco in the grave. He has a Spinny in the grave. Gazelle is in his hand, which can leap out of his hand as soon as one of these Salamangreat cards hits the graveyard. He's got a lot of fodder for this upcoming turn. So it's going to go ahead and link off the Lady Debug for a copy of Balinks using the arrow that the Nightmare Phoenix is pointing to on his side of the field. And it looks like he's going to go ahead and potentially use that Jack Jaguar to special summon itself to the Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf's arrow by shuffling back a copy of Balinks into his extra deck. So again, this should be a pretty solidified board here. We're probably going to see Phantasme come down because it is still in his hand. But remember, he did bring the Ash Blossom back with that Sunlight Wolf's effect, so he can keep that Phantasme in the Danger Thunder Dragon player's hand. Very good call there, because while Phantasme isn't the most threatening card, Salamangreat has an issue where it's kind of like Trickstar, where it's a little bit difficult sometimes for them to get over larger monsters, and being 2400 attack, Phantasme is a little bit beefier than your traditional monster may be. Not to mention the targeting protection is very valuable. So we'll have to see where the Salamangreat player goes from here. Looks like he's just going to go ahead and summon that Gazelle, resurrect that Spinny for a new copy of Mirage Stalio. Going to detach. He's going to go ahead and search. At this point, he pretty much has everything that he needs. He might just grab another copy of like Foxy or another Gazelle. Yeah, looks like he's going to go for Foxy here. Foxy still able to be special summoned as well, but he's just giving himself as many resources as possible. He's going to use the effect of his Sunlight Wolf to add Rage back to his hand from the graveyard. And at this point, it's all about solidifying his position. I believe he's in a perfect position to win this game. The Danger Thunder Dragon player has pretty much no resources left. All of his dangers are in the graveyard. I don't know how he would possibly come back from this. I mean, even something like Levianeer isn't going to do much because it won't be able to pop through something like Balinks being in the graveyard. It's just going to be very difficult for him to come back. But we'll see. Who knows? And it looks like he's going to go to Battle Phase, surprisingly. Interesting. So he's going to have Sunlight Wolf attack over the Solar for 300. And then the Sunlight Wolf... Oh, it actually looks like he might have miscalculated here. He might have forgotten that the Nightmare Phoenix was on the field. And so he's actually going to... I'm not sure if his opponent's going to force him to make a redeclare with the Sunlight Wolf. Looks like they're not going to do that. So Mirage Stallion is actually going to attack over the Phoenix for 100. And then he's going to go ahead and attack with the Sunlight Wolf and the Falco. And that'll reduce him down to about the 3,000 life point range. or so. He's definitely not dead, but I mean, with Roar and Rage now set in the back row, I am pretty sure this one is all sealed up. Knowing Phantasma is the only other card in his hand, drawing a White Dragon Wyvern Burster for turn is okay. He could banish that copy of Dark. He also has Sekka's Light to shuffle back the Phantasme, so he could potentially get another card here. But like I said, with Salamangreat already being pretty established, I think it's going to be very difficult for this Danger Thunder Dragon player to get back into it. So he's going to shuffle it back, draw a new card off of Sekka's Light. Let's go and see what he gets. Looks like an Armageddon Knight, interestingly enough. I don't think that's going to be enough. Being able to banish Dark for the White Dragon is actually pretty good, though. So he's going to go ahead and normal summon Armageddon Knight to kick things off. That will be able to send any of the dark monsters. He's just going to go ahead and immediately use Roar to negate that effect and banish that Armageddon Knight. And then here we see White Dragon Wyvern Burster coming down. He's going to banish the Roar instead. So Roar is actually going to allow him to special summon a Thunder monster from the deck. And at this point, he still has Dark and Grave. He's probably going to special summon. Well, it depends on his ratios, but he might have to special summon a Dark. Okay, so he does play 2 copies of Dark. Oh, he would actually. They play multiple Darks. I was thinking of Thunder Dragonhawk, and Dragonhawk is the other one I was thinking of that they possibly only run one of. But no, they definitely run multiple Darks just to be able to get that Thunder monster in the graveyard and just help with that cycling. So he's got a Thunder Dragonhawk, or excuse me, a Thunder Dragon Dark and a White Dragon Wyvern Burster. But again, I don't really think his options are too good here. I mean, he has the copy of Rage still, which Rage can just be used to immediately destroy both of these monsters. And yeah, it's not really going to look too good here. The effect of the both monsters will actually trigger, so we will be able to get the Black Dragon Collapse Serpent as well as a Thunder Dragon Hawk. So, oh, he's actually going to go for Thunder Dragon Duo. Okay, so that's interesting. Duo is a very large monster, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to get him out of this situation. So it looks like he's just going to immediately special summon that Dragon Duo. And I believe the Salamangreat player does have at least one Balinx in the graveyard, so he does have some protection here. And then he could summon that Black Dragon Collapse Serpent as well, but I'm not exactly sure where that would go. Sure, he could add a White Dragon to his hand if he does, like, link it off, but I don't really think that's going to do a whole lot in this particular instance. So he's going to banish the Wyvern Burster for Collapse Serpent to be summoned. Looks like he might be proceeding to battle phase here. He's going to send the Collapse Serpent into the Falco, and then Falco's just going to be able to reset one of those Salamangreat cards, so I don't really think that's going to do too much here. So it looks like he's declaring the attack. Falco's going to die. Salamangreat player is going to take a few hundred points of damage, but again, he just gets to reset one of his traps, and that's pretty much going to just seal it up. So he's going to go ahead and reset Rage. And then Duo is going to go ahead and attack into Mirage Stalio, and here we're going to see the Balinx come down, protect Mirage Stalio. The Salamangreat player will take, I believe, 800 points of damage or so. He's still going to have a healthy amount, probably around like 6,000. But at this point, there's really not much left that the Danger Thunder Dragon player can do. This Salamangreat player can probably just clean up and win this on the following turn. Looks like he's going to link off into a copy of Colossus, but that really doesn't matter when he can just use Mirage Stalio to bounce it back. He also played it in the zone that the Sunlight Wolf is pointing to, so the Salamangreat player will get to recur one of his Salamangreat monsters, in this case being Gazelle. And it looks like the Danger Thunder Dragon player has scooped it up, and we are going to that all-important Game 3. Now, the benefit of going first in Game 3, being a Danger Thunder player, is that you can just go ahead and assemble an absolutely crazy board. But is it possible that he allowed the Salamangreat player to go first? Because it looks like the Salamangreat player is actually the one on the play here. It looked like he was about to summon something. He passed! Really? Okay, that's interesting. So the Danger Thunder Dragon player allowed the Salamangreat player to go first and then passed the turn back. So now the Danger Thunder Dragon player is looking at an open board and has the potential to just OTK him outright, because this deck's OTK potential is insane. And wow, the Danger Thunder Dragon player passed it back. This is really interesting. It looks like they both might just have hands of a ton of different disruption to try and stop the other player that they don't have enough of their combo cards. We see a copy of Gazelle come down. That's not the best start, but I mean, Gazelle is what you want to see in this deck, but you never just want it to be Gazelle. You usually want it to be something else, to have Gazelle leap out of your hand, like maybe start with a Jaguar or a Falco in tandem with the Gazelle. But you know what? The Salamangreat player has to go for it, especially since neither player did anything on their turn 1. Mirage Stallion is going to go ahead and fetch out the Jaguar, and he's going to go ahead and make a play here. Now, the Salamangreat player is locked into fires, which should not be an issue considering they play 99% fire monsters in the deck. I know some do play cards like Update Jammer and things like that depending on the build, but for the most part, it shouldn't matter too much. Looks like he might just go to Battle Phase and swing with the Mirage Stallion for 2k. That will put the Danger Thunder player down to 6,000. Possibly being a little bit cautious here, too, as to what could potentially be in the Danger Thunder Dragon player's hand. He knows that he has Phantasme, as we saw in Game 2, so he could possibly be getting that damage now instead of going into Sunlight Wolf, because if he does this and then Phantasme comes down, he won't be able to hit over it, so that might be the exact reason why he's doing that. And that's exactly why, because there's the Phantasme. The Danger Thunder Dragon player is going to get to draw a couple cards, resculpt his hand a little bit here. Looks like he put a Tsuchinoko back into his deck, which is a little bit interesting. And now we have Sunlight Wolf on the field. We're going to have to see where else he goes with this play. He could potentially Jaguar back underneath the Sunlight Wolf, returning the Mirage Stallion. Looks like that's what he's going to do. That will trigger the Sunlight Wolf and allow him to get the Gazelle back to his hand. Allow him to do the same combo again next turn. He could also just link both of these off into a new copy of Sunlight Wolf to be able to recur another card, but he doesn't really have anything else in the graveyard at this point. He's just going to go ahead and make Balinks. Balinks will trigger, getting him the Salamangreat Sanctuary, and now he can Reincarnation Link summon, not having to waste multiple monsters and keep them on the board. It's still a bit tricky, though, because the Salamangreat player does not have his Counter Trap or Rage or anything else. He does go ahead and link off the Balinks and the Sunlight Wolf for a second copy. That gets the Balinks in the graveyard so that he has some protection. And then setting 3 back row. Wow, okay, so maybe he didn't even need to recur anything because he might have just had it all in his hand already. 3 back row is huge. And not to mention, these are sided games, so you have to think that there's possible side deck threats lurking in there as well. There could be stuff like Summon Limit, you could have Artifact Sanctum, but Denko Sekka coming down, wow, okay, that's going to change the equation a lot. And all those back row, unless he's playing Solemn Warning, are going to do absolutely nothing here, but there's Artifact Lancia being used in response to Denko being summoned, so both players dropping absolute huge bombs on one another. And now we see Danger Nessie coming down from the Danger Thunder Dragon player. Now, Lancia can do a significant amount of damage to this deck, but as we've seen before on previous episodes of the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels that I feature, sometimes these decks can play around Lancia fairly well, and they can just assemble a massive board, and it does not matter. So Nessie's going to summon itself, he's going to draw another card. He discarded the Thunder Dragon Dark, which is pretty nice to have engraved if he has like a, anything for a later turn. He is under Lancia, so he can't use something like Wyver Burster to banish it. So he's not going to get that advantage this turn, but we'll just have to see what he does. We see another Danger being rolled for here. And he's going to go ahead and hit that Tsuchinoko. It will special summon itself because of its effect. He does not get the draw, though, which he would have preferred to. I do see that White Dragon Wyver Burster in his hand, though, so he was really being stopped by that Lancia pretty hard. I believe I also saw a copy of Typhoon as well, which is an interesting pick. Possibly to stop any of those pesky floodgates that the Salamangreat player could be playing. So it looks like we're linking here for a copy of Nightmare Phoenix being pointed to by the arrow of Sunlight Wolf. So that will trigger Sunlight Wolf, but it will also give the Danger Thunder Dragon player a draw here. So we're going to have to see what happens. Looks like the Salamangreat player is going to opt to add Spinny back to his hand. And then that back row being evenly matched. Okay. Very interesting. Evenly Matched is not exactly the best card against Danger Thunder Dragon since they do play Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, but again, the Danger Thunder Dragon player was assumed to be going first, which is why the Salamangreat player sided it in, but as we see, it actually became a rather dead card in that instance. So the Danger Thunder Dragon player did draw his card from the Nightmare Phoenix, and now he's going to go to battle phase here, attack over the Sunlight Wolf with Phoenix. It's going to be protected by Balinks. He will take 100 damage, but then Phantasme is going to go ahead and clean that up for another 6. And then Denko Sekka is going to swing in for 17. That Lancia actually doing quite a good job at deterring the Danger Thunder Dragon player and preventing him from going off entirely. I believe there's also a copy of a Morphage Sloth in his hand as well. But with that Denko Sekka up, those back row are just going to be completely locked out. We do know that the Salamangreat player does have Gazelle and Spinny in his hand, so he's pretty much just primed to go ahead and combo off again on the next turn. No other forms of disruption from the Danger Thunder Dragon player, so we're going to have to see where this goes from here. So a draw for turn. We know he has Sanctuary as well because he searched that from the last turn. So we see a Gazelle, or excuse me, we see a Spinny, which is going to get linked off into Balinks. That's going to force Gazelle to get leaped out of the hand. Looks like the Danger Thunder Dragon player also drew a Clips Wyvern, which does not do a whole lot in this particular instance. So Gazelle's going to come down. Balinks is not going to search because Salamangreat typically only plays one copy of Sanctuary. And now Gazelle's going to go ahead and dump a Salamangreat card. I think at this point, you have access to your Jaguar. At this point, you might want to just get one of your traps unless it's already in the back row because you should be able to clean up. I was going to go for Will. Okay, I wasn't sure if he played Will or not since Will is one of those cards that's fallen out of favor with Salamangreat, but incredibly strong card. It's basically an in-archetype soul charge that is searchable, so that's very strong. But Sunlight Wolf should be able to easily clean up the Denko Sekka since it only has 1700 attack. And obviously he can make the Sunlight Wolf, so that way his back row would become online. That would just allow him to much more easily clean up the other monsters as well, because Mirage Stallion being made here could just go ahead and bounce anything. It would force either Phantasme to waste its protection effect, or it could just possibly bounce something back to the hand. He could also just get something like Roar to help establish himself for the next turn when he knows that there are looming threats because Artifact Lancia was halting the Danger Thunder Dragon player from going forward here. So we see a Falco being special summoned off of the Mirage Stallion. Falco will allow him to get to that Will. He could also just get Recurrent with the Sunlight Wolf as well. Multiple ways to get to that Will, but it looks like that's what he's eyeballing here. He's going to link off the Falco and the Balinks for a copy of Sunlight Wolf. And I was going to go ahead and use his effect of the Falco to set that Will of the Salamangreat. He's going to use Jaguar to shuffle back one of those Sunlight Wolves to get its effect, and that will trigger the Sunlight Wolf's other effect, or excuse me, the first effect. He got that Will back with Falco, excuse me. He's going to add Gazelle back to his hand. And at this point, he just needs to find a way to clear that Phantasme, because if he could make something like, let's say, a Heat Leo and then clear Phantasme, because if you link off into, let's say if you link off into Heat Leo, you could use Mirage Stallion to try and bounce Phantasme. Phantasme could possibly force you could force the discard to protect, and then Heat Leo could potentially just drain the Phantasme, and then you could like attack over it. I feel like there's a lot of different ways to navigate this board. I don't think it's too difficult. The problem is Denko Sekka is stopping that Will of the Salamangreat from being summoned. And it looks like there was a misplay there. The Salamangreat player did have the Rage set. He was getting a little bit ahead of himself, trying to Reincarnation Link summon the Sunlight Wolf, but Denko Sekka was putting a damper on that plan. So now he's just going to go ahead and use Sunlight Wolf to attack over the Denko. He can then Mirage Stallion attack over the Phoenix, only dealing 100 damage apiece, but clearing off a significant number of resources. Now that Rage is online, but it puts him in a very awkward position. This is exactly what I was saying, because Phantasme could potentially pop those... Phantasme could stop the Rage because it is a targeting effect, but now he has Will of the Salamangreat to be able to recur a bunch of his Salamangreat monsters, so he could do a couple things here to potentially stop that. But we see Typhoon coming down as I mentioned earlier, but then he has the Roar to stop the Typhoon. So Typhoon could have actually been very effective there in stopping this Will of the Salamangreat, but because now that Denko is cleared, Roar is back online, and he's able to establish Abyss Dweller as well. Oh no, he goes for Bagooska, interestingly enough. Okay, Bagooska's not a card we have seen being played in here in quite some time. And now we see the Salamangreat player resetting the Roar with the effect of Sunlight Wolf since something was summoned to that zone. And this is really interesting now. Bagooska could actually very much so hurt this Danger Thunder Dragon deck because they use so many different monster effects. And not to mention it also switches everything to defense mode as well. This could be big. You've got Bagooska backed by a Salamangreat Rage and a Salamangreat Roar, and everything is forced into defense mode. So sure, the Danger Thunder Dragon player could potentially link things off here, but he has to clear that Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf if he wants to get those other traps offline. But I think that's going to be very difficult because anytime something is threatening the Sunlight Wolf, the Salamangreat player will most likely have an answer to stop that. So it's putting him, you know, metaphorically speaking, in check, where the Danger Thunder Dragon player has to find a way to out either the Bagooska or the Sunlight Wolf. And since this deck is comprised of like 99% monster cards, it's going to be a difficult road ahead. Seeing a normal summon of Eclipse Wyvern. It looks like he's going to link off the Eclipse Wyvern and the White Dragon Wyvern Burster to go ahead and go for a Link 2. I'm not exactly sure what he's going to go for here. He already used Phoenix. These decks typically don't play Cerberus. It looks like he's going to go for Beat Cop, interestingly enough. So he's going to go ahead and trigger the effects. Bagooska does not stop effects that activate in the grave. And it looks like he's going to banish a copy of Chaos Dragon Levianeer for the effect of Eclipse Wyvern. And the White Dragon Wyvern Burster will get a copy of Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. So he does have the means to link up into a Link 4 here. And it looks like he's going to go ahead and summon that Black Dragon Collapse Serpent by banishing one of his lights. The thing is, the Salamangreat player has to decide if he wants to allow this to go through. Some Danger Thunder Dragon players do play a card like Borreload Dragon, which could be absolutely huge because it would not be able to be targeted. It would be able to be targeted because it's a trap effect, but Borreload Dragon can't be stopped by monster effects, But the Salamangreat player is not going to wait to find out what could happen. He's just going to pop that Salamangreat Roar face up to destroy the Beat Cop and the Phantasme. So this is a very big swing of events here. It looks like the Danger Thunder Dragon player does have a copy of Destrudo, though. I'm not sure if that's going to help at all, but he still has to play through a Salamangreat Roar, and he's still playing under Bagooska. So this is going to be rough because he basically needs to have some Link monster to be able to get over the Bagooska, but I'm not really sure if this is going to happen. We'll just have to see, though. So Destrudo's going to come down. He's going to pay half his life points to summon that from his hand. So he's pretty much going all in here. I believe he just paid 2,900 life points. Destrudo being a very powerful extender. Also offering you synchro capabilities as well. And now we see a Thunder Dragonhawk potentially going to come down here to resurrect the Thunder Dragon Dark that is in the graveyard. So that would give him yet another monster, but the Roar is going to go ahead and stop the Hawk from doing any sort of summoning. And now it looks like we're going to see a summon of Chaos Dragon Levianeer. So he is going to get to banish 3 cards, but Bagooska is just going to switch that to defense mode. No effects are going to trigger. Looks like he's going to banish, looks like 2 lights and a dark. So he would be popping cards if that effect were able to go through. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be able to. Now he could go for this Nightmare Unicorn here, which would be able to stay in attack mode since it is a Link monster. So it would be unaffected by Bagooska. But I'm not sure if that's going to be enough here, because even if this Bagooska does get cleared, he's still going to be in an awkward position, because then Mirage Stallion gets turned back online for the Salamangreat player. And it's definitely not looking too good here. I'm curious to see if he sees a line of play to have a way out, but I'm not seeing it. Looks like he's linking off his 2 cards for spheres potentially, but I don't really think it's going to go anywhere either. I just think on the next turn, the Salamangreat player can just finish him. It looks like he's extending the handshake. Salamangreat is going to take it. So, guys, thank you so much for watching the video, and we'll see you next time.